What's up guys, it's Thomas from Beachman Fly Tying. This is going to be my second video on furled leaders. If you've seen the first one on my other channel, you know what I'm talking about. This is a hand-twisted leader I make from one solid piece of fishing line. I usually use fluorocarbon or mono. This one is made out of 30 pounds so you guys can see it, and I'm going to make another one that's with green line so you can watch me make it. But I wanted to go over a couple of the things we've changed on it or added to it the past few years. One of the questions we had was, making an indicator with the leader. And so what we started doing was dyeing the end of it to give us like a stretch of pink or orange. So we're not putting an indicator on a cast, but we're just using the leader itself. Another thing we started doing, especially watching the musky guys and pike guys or predator fishermen, is using a barrel swivel. What we started doing was, instead of doing a perfection loop on the end of it, we'd attach this to the end of our leader, like so, pop it through. Come on. Like this. Like that. And then we would have our tippet, and we could just tie it straight to the barrel swivel. What that kind of does is, with some bigger flies, or you have flies when you're swinging in current or otherwise, they'll twist on you sometimes. This helps keep your leader and your line from twisting. It's great when you're throwing streamers or big predatory flies. I do it for nymphs too, especially when I'm steelhead nymphing. If I'm using a furled leader, I'll put a straight piece of fluorocarbon on the end of it, but I'll use a barrel swivel as well. So I'm putting other knots on it. They're a little stronger than a perfection loop or other loop knots. So first off, we'll go with direction on how to make one. Okay, I'm going to use 30-pound tri-line big game so you guys can see it. I do use this stuff for my bigger leaders to help turn over some of my musky and pike flies. So note, when you make a leader, you're going to divide it by 3 when it comes to the overall length of your leader. So say you want a 6-foot leader, you're going to use about 18 feet of fishing line. We're going to do a short one, and to show you what I mean, I'm going to do 3 poles. So generally I go from here to here. For me, at my height, that's about 3 feet. So I go 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to make a 3-foot leader, and what I'll do is I'll pull a little bit off at the end so I have my knot room. Okay, so we're going to take this and we're going to go tip to tip, just like this. And then what I will do is I'll come down to the end, right here. Now this is being the even spot, the loop we're making right now, this guy, this is going to be what goes to our tippet. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to separate them both on one side each, because when they twist, they'll tangle each other, so you want to keep them separated. And I come in and I just start twisting. 4. Now when you're making longer ones, every 4 or 5 twists, you're going to take this and you're going to stretch it out at the end, and you're going to uncoil it because it will wrap on itself. And the nice thing about doing this is, when these ends twist, you can let this go and it's not going to untwist on you. And so if you drop it or lose control of it, it won't come undone on you, which is kind of a benefit when you're making these and you have a lot of line out. So I'm going to keep twisting this up, and you can see what I mean. They're coming together, they're starting to twist on them like that guy. So that's what I mean when you're going to want to pull them out, keep them from untwisting. And this being 30 pound, it's going to be a lot thicker, so I don't recommend using this for your first time. Most of my leaders are made between 6 pound and 15. My big game leaders, I do a different style of leader, but you can use these just fine, and I'll use 20 pound on those. Okay. So now we're twisted to our end, just like that. We have our whole piece. It's all twisted together, just like this. Okay, now what we're going to do, create a loop, just like that, create a circle, and we're going to end up with 3 strands because we're going to hold the piece with loop, keep the other strands together. Now, this is how we're going to make our sections. You've got the two tip end pieces, and you've got your loop. You drop your loop and let that whole piece come out. What this is going to do is this is going to give you your taper. So now you have another loop. This section is going to go to your fly line. These 2 pieces are going to come together, and the rest of it's going to go to your tippet. That's going to create your tapered leader. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to twist it. And when I do this, I'm not pinching it hard. I'm literally letting it sit on top of my fingers and twist together. Because if you pinch it hard, these will untwist on themselves, and you'll get this like big odd gap down here, and it's really weird. So I'm just letting it rest on my fingers. Just like that. Okay, so now I've got my 4-strand piece and I've got my 2-strand piece. To fish this knot, I just roll a surgeon's knot. Just like that. Push that together. Moisten. And do all my pulls. And there you go. I'll take those, cut it close. And now what I always do on these is I'll take like some knot sense glue or some type of UV glue. I'll hit this, hit my knot, hit it with a light or put it in the sunshine. That way your knot doesn't come undone. Most of them usually doesn't, but that's just like a secondary measure. And that's your furled leader. Right there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our clear one, and I'm going to go show you guys how to dye it. Okay guys, now we're going to show you how to dye this. I took some water, this is pink dye I have here at work. You can use RIT dye, red, orange, works just fine. I usually like to go with brighter colors. What I have right now is I took my dye and I mixed it in the water in just a glass cup. I've got a thermometer in it that's reading 142 degrees, which is just about right. When you're doing this, you don't want to get it any hotter than 150, and it has to be at least 120. So if you can keep it between 120 and 150, that's your safe goal. Anything hotter is going to melt it. Anything colder, it'll take the dye, but not as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my thermometer out because I know the temperature. Put that over here. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to slide in the end. Just like that. And I'm going to go just above the knot. And this only takes a couple of minutes. It'll take it pretty quickly. You got to let the monofilament warm up a little bit to get the dye in there. And you can see it kind of waking up the knot a little bit. So what's cool about doing this is you can sit here, well, when you make these, is they make great indicator leaders. I use it for my stillwater fishing, especially when fishing chironomids on lighter, on real shallow water. But they're great for nymphs too, especially when bobbers are a little over picky. See right there, it's turning pink on us. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this sit. Now, the next thing you're going to want to do after letting this sit a couple minutes, my fingers are turning pink. Oh my God. This is just regular old vinegar. I'm going to take this, I'm going to pop my top off. I'm going to put just a little bit in. kind of stir. Now what that's going to do is that's going to set the dye on the monofilament, just like you would do with any feathers you're dyeing or anything. This is also a great way to dye feathers. Or any synthetics, like Polar Chenille, Flashabou, Crystal Flash. If you want a specific color or you want to dye the tips of them, this is a great way to do it. Okay, so that's sitting. And that'll set it. Okay, we can pull that out. You see that's real nice and pink. Now what you do when you're done here is you take it over to the sink, give it a good rinse. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to dab it off with a paper. Whoop. Try not to touch my clothes. I'm just going to dab it with a paper towel. See the water coming off of it. And then what that rinsing will do is that'll get rid of all the excess water, all the excess dye. That way when you go put it in a bag or something, your bag doesn't turn pink or orange or chartreuse or whatever color you choose to do. And now I've got my dyed pink leader for my indicator. And that's it. And you can tell I'm touching it right now and there's no residue coming off of it. That's it. That is a dyed indicator furled leader. Hope you enjoyed, and now go make some of your own.